I love those stories, and I love just hearing those students have an opportunity to share. Well, I am obviously not Mark. My name is Danny Howard, and I am the student ministries pastor at our Dixon City campus. And I'm excited to be with you, whether you're here in the room or whether you're joining us online. I'm excited to spend this weekend with you. And this is a big weekend for us. We're actually calling it Pack Your Bags Weekend. And I have brought some bags with me that I'm going to use to kind of help us move in the direction that we're going to go this morning. But what we're doing is we're celebrating the class of 2019, who in the very near future are going to be packing a lot of bags. And when you think about packing bags, it can bring a lot of different emotions into our minds. We can have feelings of excitement, anticipation, wonder, and maybe even sometimes a little bit of stress. Now, I'm not sure if you realize this or not, but the class of 2019, these students were actually, many of them were born in the year 2000 or 2001. Yes, you feel really old, don't you? All right? I know I do. But yes, that's many of them. Now, I don't know what you were doing in the year 2000, but I remember what I was doing. I was a freshman in high school, and I remember that I was pumped that the world had not completely fallen apart because of Y2K. You remember that? Right, how everybody thought that the world was going to be ruined when the computers crashed because apparently a computer doesn't know how to go from 11:59 to 12 o'clock. I don't know, but people were freaking out. But talk about pack your bags. People were doing a lot of packing their bags that year, like 1,000 gallons of water were going into their bags and like a 2-year supply of pinto beans. They were packing in their bags because they didn't know what was going to happen. Well, students, your parents, in the midst of the gallons of water and the pinto beans thing, they were packing their bags to go to the hospital because you, their sweet little baby boy or girl, was about to be born. And that's when we just all sit there and we're like, oh, that beautiful moment when my baby was a baby, okay? And we think about that, but that's exactly what they were doing at that time. And my wife, Nicole, and I, we actually have 3 girls, and here's a picture of them. But I remember bringing home our oldest daughter, Julia, from the hospital. And as I was swerving around potholes, because I didn't want to kill her, but I remember thinking, and over the years, I've thought about the dreams and the hopes that I have for her and the person that I hope that she one day becomes. And I would read with her and spend time with her. I would pray with her, and I've watched her grow with the hopes of who she could be. And one of the things that we love to do with all of our girls is we love to read to them. And one of our favorite things to read is the Jesus Storybook Bible. And as we think about packing our daughter's bags as she grows up and continues to move into the future, this is one of the things, the Jesus Storybook Bible is one of these things that we have packed inside of her bag and inside of the bags of our girls. But you know what else we've done? We've also taught our daughter, we've taught all of our girls that they are kind, strong, and beautiful. And that it's our hope that they would show that to people. Yeah. She's really, really smart. She can read upside down. Right? But we've taught them that they're kind, strong, and beautiful, and that we want them to show that to people each and every day. And so that's something that we are going to pack inside of their bags as well. But you know what? As kids get older and they go through lots of things, they also fall down and they skin their knees a lot. And so one of the things that we've done is we've taught them what it looks like to get back up after they fall down. And so that's something that we have packed inside of their bags. But you know what else? We've also had to teach them, how to play well with other people and how to share. And yes, I know what you're wondering, but yes, I do play with these often, having 3 girls. But we've had to teach them how to play well with others, and so we want that to be something that we've packed inside of their bags. We love our girls, and we have invested in them. And listen, graduates, your parents, they have invested a lot into you as well, into your spiritual growth and development. They have invested in you physically, emotionally, mentally, and even spiritually. You see, your parents, they got you off to school when you needed to get off to school. They showed up and they took you to your games when you played travel soccer. And they cleaned up your puke in the middle of the night while you just laid there in it, right? Parents, I know what you're thinking. Thanks so much for the help, okay? But they did that for you. They bought you your first phone. They got you to church each and every weekend. They paid for your retreats and your events that you were able to be a part of. And they even took time to sit there and to listen as you went on and shared about how your one true love broke your heart in 6th grade. They did that. because they love you and they care for you and they're investing in you. But students, we want you to know that we as a church are also excited for you. The next steps that you're about to take are big ones and they're important ones. And when it comes to your faith, we as a church have also invested in you over the years. We have helped to pack your bag, some of you for 18 years. And if you spent any time here, you have heard us talk. You've heard us talk about this orange philosophy. If you know about orange, you know that orange is made up of two colors, red and yellow. And so the way that we talk about it is that the red represents the heart of the home, and the yellow represents the light of the church. And what we believe is that two combined influences in the life of a kid or a student are going to be so much stronger than the home or the church trying to work by themselves. And so students, as you go out, we want you to know and to remember that orange is also, it's a part of your bag that we're packing. Somebody has poured their life or their lives into you to help you survive and thrive. Students, at some point when you were in Munguland, you had a leader that invested in you and told you that Jesus wants to be your friend forever. And so that's packed inside of your bag. When you were in Epic Kids, you had a leader that invested in you when you were in elementary, and they told you that you can trust God no matter what. And students, when you were in middle school and high school and you were in 3D, you had a leader that gave up a weekend or multiple weekends to go with you to the fall retreat and to stay in a cabin with you and your buddies when you were in middle school. And they had to endure all of the smells that come with being in a middle school boys' cabin. But they did that because they wanted to invest in you. And you had a leader who gave up a week or two of their summer to go with you on IPAC and help you navigate the drama that comes when all of the girls in your small group like that same boy from that one church. But they did it because they wanted to invest in you and care for you. And they did that because they wanted to show you that you could have a faith of your own. And you know what? They taught you that when you look in the mirror, they wanted to challenge you and encourage you to see yourself the way that God sees you. See, students, we as a church, the people in this room, we have invested a lot into you. We have put a lot in your bags. And we want to make sure that this transition that you're about to step into, this pack your bags moment, that our investment pays off. Because students, we can't choose for you, but we can care for you. We can't make you remember what we've packed in your bags, but we can remind you of some of the things that have gone into packing your bags. And as you transition into this next phase of your life, I couldn't help but wonder, how can yesterday's investments continue to pay off tomorrow? You see, while today is about today is also about yesterday and all of the days leading up to today. But today is also about tomorrow and all of the days that will follow. Adults in the room, I want to be honest with you. Right now, at this moment in time is when our investment as a church into these students is at its most crucial moment. I want to show you a statistic. Because research suggests that anywhere from 50 to 70% of students who grow up with a faith will leave their faith in their early 20s. It's in their college years. And in the graduating class this year, there are about 80 graduates. And so what that means is that if statistics are true, that means anywhere from 40 to 50 of them will abandon their faith by the time that they graduate college. That's 1 out of every 2 students. So let me ask you, Munguland crew members, that you invested all that time, are you okay with those statistics? Epic Kids crew members, you've given those times as they walk through elementary school. Are you okay with those statistics? 3D small group leaders, are you okay with those numbers as well? Parents in the room of these students, are you okay with those odds? Students, do you like that? Because you have invested as well. You've gone on trips, you've given up things, you've said no to some things, you've said yes to other things, you have invested as well. You raised money for trips. This should bother you. This is the time, this transition, when our investment into these students is most at risk. And this is not new information. If you've been around church at all, we know that the transition from high school to post-high school or college years, we know that it is notorious for the drop-off in faith. We hear it all the time, right? We can finish this statement. I was raised in a family that went to church, but then I went off to college. We hear it all the time. I picked up some baggage. I had some failed relationships. And then after a bunch of pain and struggle, I then returned to my faith. But you know what we don't hear? What we don't get to hear is the story of the untold thousands that never actually make it back to faith. And what we don't get to hear is a detailed description of the choices that person wishes they could get a do-over on. But those that do come back, we celebrate their stories. If that's your story, let me tell you, you are an inspiration. I get emotional every time I hear your story. But can I tell you that I bet that a vast majority of those that have that story, if they were given a chance to see the pain that was coming with the decisions that to abandon their faith, then they would choose a pain-free path. Can I tell you that as a student pastor, this drop-off, that statistic, it bothers me. And so my thought, I'll be honest with you, is no way. Not on my watch. I'm not okay with that number. And I'll tell you, I don't have all the answers by any means, but I have been studying this transition for a little while now. And I think that there are some things that we as a church, we can do differently to make sure that the investment that we have already made makes it through this transition. Right? We spend 18 years on hundreds of young people who walk through our halls, and then we just let 50% of them split on this whole God thing? No way. Today I want to talk about what our students and the rest of us can do to break this trend. Because students, I don't want to lose 40 to 50 of you. More importantly, I don't want to see any of you pack any unnecessary baggage, any unnecessary pain, regret, shame, and heartache into your bags because of the decisions that you're about to consider. And so how do we help students not drift away from God? Well, I want to tell you about two guys that are in the Bible, and their names are Paul and Timothy. And Paul and Timothy, they met in Timothy's hometown. And when they met, we actually know that Timothy had some pretty incredible influences in his life that helped to bring him up in the faith. Check out 2 Timothy 1:5. It says this, I am reminded of your sincere faith, which first lived in your grandmother Lois and in your mother Eunice. And I am persuaded now lives in you also. See, Timothy had a mother and a grandmother who had invested in his life. And that's the influence of the home. Right? When he was growing up, they put a lot of love and faith into Timothy's bag. Their investment had a massive impact on Timothy's faith. But before you sit there and go, oh, of course, he's in the Bible, he's got a perfect family. No. As we read that verse, you'll notice that there's someone that's not mentioned in that verse. Paul doesn't mention Timothy's dad. We don't know why that is. Maybe Timothy's dad had passed away. Maybe he wasn't a believer, or maybe Timothy's dad didn't even want him to have this type of faith that he had. So maybe he was against it. We don't know. But what we do know is that Timothy didn't grow up in a perfect Christian home. His grandmother, man, she did what she could. His mother did what she could. They packed his bags as best as they could. But when they meet, Paul is a veteran of the faith at the time, and Timothy was a young man in the faith who was very well respected. And so Paul had Timothy come along with him on his travels and to participate in sharing the good news of the message of Jesus Christ with the people that they encountered. And Timothy, he no doubt learned a great deal from Paul. And the two of them developed this special relationship, and I love it because it is almost like Paul is Timothy's small group leader. That's the influence of the church. And so students, in this story, you're going to be Timothy. And so church, in this story, we are going to be Paul. And so at some point, we know that they stopped traveling together. Actually, Paul was thrown into prison, and I'm not sure if you know this, but it's kind of difficult to travel when you're in prison. All right? So what Paul did is he said, okay, I can't invest in him in the same way that I did before, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my method. I'm going to write some letters. And we have some of those letters that Paul wrote to Timothy to continue investing in him. And here's how we can see how we can continue to help our graduates after high school. Look at 1 Timothy 4:12. It says, don't let anyone look down on you because you are young. You see, Paul recognized that Timothy was standing at a fork in the road at this moment in his life. He had decisions to make based on the pressures that he would now face now that he was by himself. Paul's encouraging Timothy here, and he's saying, listen, people are going to be tempted to look down on you because you are young, but Paul is saying, age is not the issue here. Timothy, you have a lot to offer the church. You can be an example, is what we're going to get to. He says, you have a lot to offer the church, and students, I want to tell you as well, you have a lot to offer as well. You can do more than you might think. And so he says, don't let anyone think down on you because you're young. We have invested in you. You have decisions to make that will impact the direction of your life. And so Paul continues on. He says, don't let anyone look down on you because you're young, but set an example for the believers. And set an example in this way, in your speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity. You see, Paul says he's reminding Timothy of what his mother and grandmother had packed into his bag. He's reminding Timothy of what he had packed into his bag as well. But this isn't the first time that Paul has talked to Timothy about this. And students, these truths aren't the first time that you're hearing it as well, but we want to remind you of what we have packed in your bag. And so let's look at these areas together. He first of all says to be an example in your speech. Be an example in speech. So what does that mean? Does that just mean, is that just a verbal thing? Well, do you know how many words actually come out of your mouth each and every day? Research suggests that on average, people speak about 7,000 words a day. Yes, some people speak way more than that. Don't nudge the person next to you, all right? And some people speak less than that. But on average, we speak about 7,000 words every single day. But it's more than that. Those words that we are speaking every day, our words have power. Proverbs 18:21 says this. It says, the tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. Our words have power. But I don't have to tell you that. You know that. That's the reason that you know and you remember that middle school or that Little League baseball coach that you had who said that one hurtful thing to you all those years ago, and yet you still remember it to this day because our words have power. And it's the same reason why you remember that one middle school teacher, the first teacher that you ever had, who said that they believed in you, that they saw more for you, that you had so much potential. You remember that because your words have power. Our words have an incredible amount of power. And Paul says, be an example with your words. Use your words to bring life to other people. Students, we've invested, right? We've invested this truth in you, and now it's up to you to pull this out of your bag when you need it in this next season of your life. But Paul also says to be an example in conduct. And Paul is talking about how Timothy lives out his faith. He doesn't want Timothy to just say one thing on Sunday and then live completely differently on Monday. No, what he's saying is our life is connected. In the same way that we can hurt our walk with Jesus by doing things that we know set us back, what Paul is saying is he's saying your walk should match your talk. Paul's encouraging Timothy, don't just be a person that knows the right things to do, but doesn't actually live it out. He's saying, be a person that brings people closer to Jesus. Check out James 1:22. It says, do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves, but do what it says. You see, so he's saying when people look at your life, it should cause them to ask questions. As a follower of Jesus, we should be living lives that demand an explanation. And so the way that you're living your life, it should be different than the way that others are living their lives. And so students, we've shown you that we don't get it right all the time. But with God's help, right, you can walk in a way that is an example to other people. And so that's in your bag. He also continues. And he says to be an example in the way that we love other people. And the word that he uses here is the word agape, which is a self-sacrificing love. It's the type of love that God had for us in sending his son Jesus to this earth to die in our place. That's the type of love that he's talking about. It's the type of love that when you and your mom, you get into an argument and you storm off and you slam the door and you come back a couple hours later and she's made dinner for you. She's even baked your favorite dessert. You didn't deserve that. You didn't do anything to deserve that. And yet she did that because she loves you with an undeserving love, a self-sacrificing love. That's what Paul's saying. He's telling Timothy, be an example in the way that we love others. Check out Philippians 2, 3 through 4. It says, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, but rather in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interest of others. That's what he's saying, right? He's saying, make it our goal to love people like Jesus does. Students, you have seen how Jesus has put you first, how your parents and small group leaders have sacrificed for you. Students, we've taught you that it's not about putting yourself first, it's about putting yourself second. It's about others being first. And so we're putting that's in your bag as well. He says, be an example in faith. To think about those decision-making moments when you know what God has called you to do, but you also know what other people are calling you to do. And it's that time when it's trust God or trust yourself. And graduates, you're about to face those decision-making moments. You will have to choose between God and friends, boyfriends, girlfriends, the parties to go to, looking cool, and what you're going to do with your free time. You see, Timothy had spent a serious amount of time with Paul, and he probably had seen some incredible things. He'd seen thousands of people meet Jesus. And here at Parker Hill, students, you have seen much of that as well. You have seen your friends and their parents come to know Jesus. You have seen hundreds baptized. You've seen thousands of dollars raised for global work. You have seen 1 million diapers given away. You've seen stories of life change. You have seen God do what only He can do. You see, you stepped in and you watched as God stepped up. And how God has stepped in. And there are kids in Haiti and kids in Kenya who now have a school and they have books, they have access to clean water, and they have a hope for a future. You've seen that, students. You're going to have to decide, though, who to follow, God or this world. So one of the things that we actually want to give to you that are graduating, we're going to give you this devotional as a way to remind you of the God that we base this faith on. You have seen that faith leads to the best life. And so, students, that's in your bag as well. The last area where Paul says to be an example is in the area of purity. And I think he saves one of the biggest areas for last, and maybe because this is the area that has the most potential to hurt Timothy, and it also has the most potential to hurt us as well. He's talking about purity of mind, but also being sexually pure, which was completely contrary to the message of the culture of that day. And guess what? It is completely contrary to the culture, or the message of the culture of today as well. And students, you have an incredible opportunity to be an example in this area of your life as you head off to this next chapter of your life. And Paul even tells Timothy in his second letter to flee the evil desires of his youth. But graduates, many of us know and have lived with the scars of not fleeing. And as you go about your relationships with we want you to act as young men and women of integrity. Listen to Paul and learn from our hurts. Set the example in purity. And so another one of our gifts that we're going to give each of our graduates is we're going to give you this laundry bag for both the times that you're going to do laundry, okay? And on it says, keep it clean. And we want that to be a reminder to you to keep it clean, like your laundry. Make sure you're doing that, especially your sheets, okay? Doing that. But we also want to remind you to keep it clean in this area of purity as well. Set the example. You can do it. And so students, man, it doesn't matter if you're going to college, a trade school, joining the military, or entering the workforce. We want to challenge you to set the pace for those around you in how you talk to and about others. Speak life into people. We want to challenge you to be a pattern worth following by how you carry yourself, by doing your best at how you study, play, work, and even rest. Be a representation of Jesus by how you show compassion and kindness to others around you. Be confident in God, even when things get difficult. And finally, and this is a big one, when temptation comes, keep it clean. As we wrap up today, I want to speak to two different groups of people. The first group that I'm going to speak to is to everybody in the room, and then I want to speak to our graduates. And earlier I told you this scary statistic that research says that 50 to 70% of students who grow up with a faith can leave it in their early 20s. But there's more research that I want to share with you as well. At the Fuller Youth Institute, Dr. Kara Powell and her team, they led a 6-year study called the College Transition Project. And they surveyed hundreds of students over the course of their college career to see if they could figure out what it was that caused them to have a faith that sticks. And they wrote a book called Sticky Faith, right? To document their findings. And the Sticky Faith team, they learned a lot in their studies. One of the things that they learned is that high school graduates do not really feel ready for college. And they learned that every graduate faces a fork in the road as they make decisions about their life after high school. But they also discovered that there are 2 ways that can make a difference in our graduates' futures. And that's what I want you to remember today. I want you to remember 2 numbers, 14 and 5. And the first is how we can help our graduates start well. You see, researchers discovered that for those going to college, the first 2 weeks on campus are pivotal. Students reported that when they look back on their college experience, the first 2 weeks on campus often determined the direction that they were going to take with their college experience. Which means if we can help our students start well, it can make all the difference in the world. You see, if what took us 18 years to do can be ripped away in just 2 weeks, I think that we can give 14 more days. I think that their faith is worth 14 days. The second number I want you to think about is the number 5. You see, because those that maintain their faith through college talked about how they had 5 or more trusted adults who were investing in them. In Parker Hill, that's what we can do. We can be one of those 5 relationships. We can be like Paul and encourage. We can love on these graduates. We can remind them of what they have been taught and how much God and us loves them. Because you see, for years, we have looked at this time as simply a time to say goodbye and good luck. We have little parties to celebrate them. We give them gifts. We then get them a matching dorm room bed set. And we then pack up the minivan, or we wave goodbye to them in the driveway, but we drive them off to college, and we leave them and we say, hey, goodbye, good luck. Don't mess up. But then we're surprised when we see that they lose their faith, and we think, what happened to him? What happened to her? It's shocking. But you know what the worst part is? Is that oftentimes we have begun to even accept that as the standard. And we simply say, that's just the normal. That's just the way it is. They're just kind of getting it out of their system. You know what I heard? I heard about a student who said that he never felt more abandoned by his church than on the day that he graduated. It was just, okay, well, we don't really have a plan for you, so goodbye, good luck. I hope you don't mess up. Can I be honest with you? That bothers me. I don't want to lose 40 or 50 of our students because to me, that number is not just a number. To me, that number is not just a statistic. It represents students that I know. I know their families. I have a relationship with them. I've gone on trips with them. I have served with them. Because you see, to me, that statistic, again, it's not a number. To me, that number could represent Luke or Andrew or Patrick or David or Ashley or Catherine. And I could go on and name student after student. But you see, to me, that statistic is not just a number. That's a student that I have a relationship with. And I am not okay just allowing them to become another part of the statistic. It's way more personal for me. You see, I think we as a church can do something about this. I think we can expect better. I think we can dream and chase better. Can I tell you, I'm an all-in guy. I am not a 50% person, like, I'm just going to go halfway. I go all in with everything. I'm a 100% guy. And so I'm not okay with 50%. And so I think we as a church, I think we can go for 100%. See, families, you have poured into them. Church, we have poured into them. You've invested. We have invested. And our students stand at a fork in the road. Paul didn't stop leading Timothy when he was gone. And church, we don't have to stop leading these students when they're gone as well. And students, I want you to hear this, is that we can't choose for you, but we will care for you. We commit to that. And we're so serious about this that we came up with a plan to help students during this transition time. Our team wanted to make this so easy, and so we asked as many parents as we could get in touch with to send us a photo with their student's name and what they plan on doing this coming fall. And we printed multiple copies of those pictures, and we've put them out in the lobby on display. So here's what you can do. One way that you can begin to get behind these students and to go with them is after the service, stop by the table in the lobby and grab a photo and put it on your fridge and say, I'm going to commit to praying for this student by name between now and the fall. You can do that. But many of you, maybe you're sitting in here thinking, that's great, I'm going to pray for them, that's awesome, but I want to do more. Is there anything else that I can do? You definitely can. You can invest in a student. Now listen, I'm not talking about paying their college bills, although I am sure if you want to do that, they will line up. And I'll line up for a little bit of that action too, okay? But that's not what we're saying. What we're saying is that you simply have an opportunity to be one of the 5 relationships that encourages them to continue their faith. We're not asking you to become this massive mentor in their life or to become best friends with them. We're asking you to simply show that you care. And so here's some examples of what that could look like. Maybe it looks like week number 1, you're going to make a phone call. And then students, when they call you, you have to pick it up and answer it, okay? And talk to them on the phone. Maybe it looks like you're going to order a pizza and have it delivered to their dorm room. They will love that, all right? They will love that. Text them. Maybe you send them a text that says, hey, I'm praying for you and we miss you. Maybe it's a monthly check-in. Maybe you're going to write them a letter, like with paper and pen and in an envelope, and then you put a stamp. Never mind, you get it. But like everybody loves getting mail. You can do that. Or maybe you just send them a card with $20 and a Bible verse. Can I tell you that is everything that a college kid needs to know that they can do it? Encouragement, cash, and Christ. They got it, right? You can do that. So here's how this is going to work after the service today. I want to challenge you to stop in the lobby and pick up a student to pray for. You can sign up, and then we will send you an email with some next steps and some guidelines. And if you're interested in going a step further and investing, we will get you what you need to connect with and to care for that student. Pick a student and sign up for next steps. Because you see, students, we're not just dropping you off and leaving you alone. We want you to be great. And we will not let 40 or 50 of you fall away from your faith. Not on our watch, not without a fight. Students, we can't choose for you, but we will care for you. And so students, admit it. You need us. Church, admit it. We can't drop the ball on this. These graduates are our most important treasure. We have, as a group, poured hours and hours and hours into preparing them. And so we won't stop now. Our work is not quite finished. So students, we commit to caring for you. Students, you can do this. We've got your back. We've packed your bags full of faith. You have to choose, though, to reach in and pull it out, to use what it is that you have been given. And as the band comes, they're going to lead us in one final song. But I want to show you 2 more verses that I hope they will be a final challenge to us. Check out these verses from 2 Timothy 3, 14 to 15. It says, but as for you, continue in what you have learned and have become convinced of, because you know those from whom you learned it, and how from infancy you have known the Holy Scriptures, which are able to make you wise for salvation through faith in Christ Jesus. So students, you have what you need. It's here in this bag. You just need to make sure that you take it with you and that you pull it out when you need it, that you pull it out as you're going through this next transition in your life. Students, we want you to know that we're here for you. All that we just challenged the church with is because we're going to do everything in our power to help you not become part of that statistic. We're not okay with 50%. We are going for 100%. We're not willing to settle for 50%. Students, we are behind you. We are with you, and we are for you. We as your church believe in you and cannot wait to see how God uses you in this next chapter of your life. Graduates, we can't choose for you, but we will care for you. And so adults, go grab a picture and be a Paul for someone who needs it. We're going to sing a song right now. And it's a song called When the Fight Calls. And today, in some ways, I am calling you, I am calling all of us to step into this fight. And so as we sing this song, I want you to think, what is my role? What can I do in the life of one of these students to fight for this group? Because I think that there is no better time than we're about ready to step off to college or whatever that next phase may look like in our life. There is no better time than for these students to know that their church is behind them, that their church is with them, that their church is for them. So let's fight this fight together.